This is the story of two friends. One was born under duty. The other was born under prophecy. Both defended Nod-Krai during the Cataclysm. Both helped build the Nod-Krai we know today. Both dreamed of creating a paradise, an Elysium. And yet, history remembers only this. One is called a hero, the other, a thief. This story takes place in Nod-Krai 500 years ago, before the birth of the new moon, during a time of unrest, fading faith, and internal collapse within the Frostmoon Scions. At the center of that collapse stood Lovia, the arch-priestess of the Frostmoon Scions. But there is a secret that even Lovia didn't know. Lovia was not born into the Scions. She was an orphan from outside their lineage, adopted by the previous arch-priestess. Unlike the others, she bore no antlers and carried none of the moon's natural blessing. As the moon's favor waned and the Scions began to lose faith, Lovia grew desperate, and desperation gave birth to blasphemy. She initiated the Sacred Heir Project, the belief that a prophesied, pure-blooded Hyperborean child could restore the Scions' prosperity. But the woman chosen to give birth to this heir fled. She eloped with a Snezhnayan officer. When Lovia sent spies to retrieve her, the woman took her own life. Yet before she died, she gave birth to a boy. His name was Avrelian. Avrelian grew up never knowing the truth of his birth. He was adopted by Miknenko, a Snezhnayan military officer, and enrolled in the Snezhnayan Royal Military Academy. There, he befriended Sylvester Petrovich Solovei, a noble whose house bore the symbol of the nightingale. Between drills and training, the two often ventured out on treasure hunts. And somewhere along the way, Avrelian shared a dream of an Elysium, a world where everyone would be equal. Solovei shared that dream. After graduation, Avrelian became a non-commissioned officer. Then he disappeared. He faked his death and abandoned his identity, taking on a new name, Reed Miller. The name Reed Miller was not unique to him. It had been used by many, both in the past and the present, and it would be used again. We will talk about those others later in this video. But Avrelian was the original Reed Miller. Under that name, he raised the emblem of the Black Raven, gathered the forsaken and despised, and preached bold blasphemies. From this, the treasure hoarders were born. His goal was to build an Elysium for the hungry and the poor, on the wealth of the high and haughty. This is where another figure enters the story. Rotwang, also known as Rotwang, or the Professor, a monk from Canria. Like Avrelian, he sought an Elysium, but his vision was far darker. He believed paradise lay in the abyss. Consumed by forbidden knowledge, Rotwang survived the Cataclysm without succumbing to the curse of the wilderness, despite not being pure-blooded. This convinced him that he was chosen, destined to open a path beyond the false sky. After years of wandering and studying ancient records, his search led him to Nod-Krai, then still a barren borderland. There, he found the path he believed would lead to his Elysium. Determined to open its gates, he entered Snezhnaya's court under the name Rotwang, serving the Beli Tsar. Through the court, he contacted Lovia. She spoke of the Sacred Heir, of the Sampo Mill, a Hyperborean relic meant to create Elysium for the Frostmoon Scions. But Rotwang's intent was different. He planned to use the Sampo Mill to tear open the false sky itself. That is why he sought Avrelian, the true Sacred Heir. Then the Cataclysm struck. Solovei traveled to Nod-Krai to defend it against the abyss. There, he met a girl named Isla, who became his benefactor and aided him in battle. But to understand Isla, we need to go back. After Avrelian's mother died, Lovia refused to abandon the Sacred Heir Project. This time, she turned to twin girls from a lesser branch of the family, Isla and Alia. Here, Lovia crossed a line even the moon goddess herself could never have imagined. She forced the girls to kill other Frostmoon Scions and drink their blood, believing it would purify them. Isolated and abused, the twins swore they would one day escape together. But fate intervened. With the help of Reed Miller, Alia escaped. Isla was left behind. And yet, Isla possessed something unique. She could see through time. She foresaw the birth of a new moon goddess. And she foresaw that Solovei was the hero meant to protect Elysium. That is why she chose to help him. Together, they killed Lovia. Isla became the new leader of the Frostmoon Scions, taking the title Moon Chanter, and reforming the order to worship moonlight alone, abandoning blood rituals entirely. She gifted Solovei the Arrow of Terpsichoreans, a Hyperborean weapon capable of purifying abyssal corruption. With it, Solovei cleansed Nod-Krai and founded the Lightkeepers. The barren land became a city. Solovei became its protector. Meanwhile, Avrelian's story came to a quiet, brutal end. Lured by a noble friend, he sought an audience with the Beli Tsar. He was executed on the spot. The idealist died there. But Reed Miller did not. After Avrelian's death, Alia inherited the name Reed Miller. She reshaped the treasure hoarders into a disciplined, quasi-religious force and used them to rob the governor's palace, redistributing its wealth to the poor of Nasha Town. Later, she joined forces with Solovei to stop Rotwang. They learned he intended to use the Pillar of Embla to pierce the false sky. To stop him, Alia cast herself into the Sampo mill, igniting it at the cost of her life. She remained trapped between time and space, guarding the silver lampwick until it was recovered by the traveler in Iluga, who finally ended Rotwang's legacy. When the dust settled, Lovia was erased from history. Rotwang was defeated. Isla became legend, the first Moonchanter. Solovei was remembered as Nodcri's hero. But Reed Miller's story continued. Avrelian had another friend from his days at the military academy. His name was Brahe, the adopted son of Nodcry's Fey governor. Brahe admired Avrelian deeply. He mourned both Avrelian's death and the death of the gentle Miss Alia. But what disturbed him most came after. He watched as their ideals, born from compassion and sacrifice, were twisted. Exploited by profiteers, used by bandits and opportunists to justify cruelty and greed. Brahe came to a grim realization. Goodwill, when poured into the soil of malice, does not grow, it rots. Seeing himself as a man of ordinary character, born to a greedy father, Brahe knew he could not purify the world, but he could protect his friends' legacies, so he chose to bury them. Exploiting the unreliability of Snezhnaya's civil system, Brahe faked his death in official records, becoming a ghost to the state. And from that shadow, he became the third Reed Miller. Not a revolutionary, not a savior, but a mythmaker. Under countless pseudonyms, Brahe fabricated legends of impossible treasures and exaggerated exploits. His strategy was simple. If Reed Miller became a ridiculous story, then no future villain could ever use the name as a banner of power. In his final years, Brahe refined his vault into a trial known as the Proof of the Cognoscenti. He filled it with iron coins and treasure, not as a reward for greed, but as a test of insight and discernment. He knew he could not erase the world's malice, but he could ensure that Reed Miller would remain a harmless name, one that could never again be used to cause harm. And so, he left the keys of that legacy behind, waiting for someone worthy. And that is the full tragedy of Nod-Krai. Two friends, one shared dream, and a history that chose convenience over truth. Solovei became the hero, remembered, celebrated, and protected by legend. Avrelian became the thief, misunderstood, fragmented, and buried beneath myth. But without both of them, there would be no Nod-Krai at all. History doesn't ask who was right. It only decides who gets remembered. And sometimes, the most dangerous thing a good person can become is a legend left in the wrong hands.